I'm 101 years old. Most people who meet me ask exactly the same question. Mrs. Brooks, what's your secret? I always smile before I answer. Not because I enjoy keeping people guessing, because the answer they're expecting isn't the one I'm about to give. Some think I'll tell them about a miracle vitamin. Others believe I must have discovered some rare tea or followed a perfect diet my entire life. I've watched people lean closer, almost afraid they'll miss the sentence that changes everything. They usually look surprised when I tell them this. I don't have a secret, I have a story. And it begins with the day someone told me I might not have much of a future left. If you've ever received news that made the world feel suddenly smaller, then you'll understand exactly what I'm about to share. Before I continue, I'd love to ask you something. How old are you today, and what's one lesson life has taught you that you wish you'd learned much earlier? Leave your answer in the comments. I read as many of them as I can, and I truly believe someone else reading your words may find the encouragement they need today. And if stories about resilience, hope, and the wisdom we gather through life's hardest seasons speak to you, I'd be honored if you subscribed. Every week, we share stories that remind us it's never too late to grow, to heal, or to see life a little differently. Now let me take you back. I was 70 years old when my doctor asked me to sit down. I'd been tired for months. Simple things had become difficult, and I told myself it was just part of getting older. After all, I'd raised 3 children, worked in a small-town library, and cared for my husband through his illness. Surely I'd earned the right to feel a little tired, but deep inside I knew something wasn't right. The doctor studied the papers in front of him, then looked into my eyes. His voice was calm, kind, careful. "Mrs. Brooks," he said, "your heart is much weaker than we'd hoped. I think it's important that you prepare yourself and your family." He didn't tell me how much time I had. Life doesn't work that way, but I understood what he meant. I walked out of that hospital carrying something far heavier than my purse. I carried a deadline. For weeks I couldn't stop hearing those words. Nothing around me had changed, yet somehow everything had. For the first time in my life, tomorrow no longer felt guaranteed. That frightened me, not because I feared dying, but because I hadn't truly appreciated the pages I was still holding. When I pulled into my driveway that day, I sat in the car a long time, looking at the roses my husband Harold had planted years before. He'd been gone nearly 10 years by then. Grief, I've learned, never disappears. It just grows quieter, learning to walk beside you instead of standing in your way. Harold had worked as a mechanic for over 40 years, fixing engines and lawnmowers and neighbors' bicycles, often for nothing. Once I asked him why he went out of his way for strangers. He said, "Eleanor, when people feel seen, they carry that kindness farther than we ever will." Years later, I understood he was talking about the kind of life a person leaves behind. After Harold died, I kept waking, watering the flowers, baking pies for my grandchildren. From the outside, everything looked normal. Inside, something had quietly disappeared: hope. It slips away a little at a time, until one day you realize you're surviving, but no longer expecting anything beautiful to happen. The doctor's words seemed to confirm what I'd already begun believing, that my best years were behind me. I wish I could tell you I found courage right away. I didn't. I stopped making plans. When my daughter Rebecca mentioned next Thanksgiving, I wondered if I'd still be at the table. Looking back now, I believe that fear was more dangerous than the diagnosis itself. Once fear settles into your heart, it slowly convinces you to stop living long before life has actually ended. I didn't know it then, but someone was about to challenge everything I believed about growing older. His name was Walter Jenkins. I'd lived on the same street as Walter for years, but didn't really know him. Not until the morning after my doctor's appointment. I was on my porch with coffee gone cold, staring at it rather than drinking it. A cheerful voice came from the sidewalk. "Morning, Eleanor. You ready?" "Ready for what?" "For our walk." "Walter, my doctor told me to slow down, so we'll slow down. Today we'll just walk to your mailbox." He said it so casually I couldn't think of an excuse. "Maybe another day," I said. He tipped his cap. "I'll ask again tomorrow." And he did. Same time, same smile, same little paper bag. "You really aren't going to stop asking," I said. "No. Because I think you've confused being careful with giving up." Those words followed me all day. I'd stopped tending Harold's flower beds, stopped baking pies. I wasn't preserving my strength. I was slowly shrinking my life. The next morning, I grabbed my sweater. Halfway to the mailbox, I stopped to catch my breath. "I'm slowing you down." He looked around the empty street. "I don't see anyone we're racing." I laughed. It felt strange, like I'd forgotten how. At the mailbox, he lingered, waving at neighbors, and almost everyone waved back. "How do you know so many people?" I asked. "I just try to remember what's important to them," he said. "Not their names or jobs, what mattered to them." We walked again the next morning, and the one after that. Little by little, my world grew larger. Not because I walked farther, but because I noticed more. Walter admired flowers growing through cracked sidewalks, congratulated a boy on his first fish, checked in on a widow's new book. People smiled when they saw him, because he made them feel remembered. One morning I asked, "Walter, are you always this happy?" He laughed, not even close. Then he grew quiet. "I buried my wife 18 years ago. I also buried my oldest son. I've had health problems, lost jobs, cried more than most people know." "Then how can you still smile?" He said, "Because I stopped waiting for life to become perfect before deciding to enjoy it." That sentence settled deep inside me. How many years had I postponed joy, waiting for tomorrow to feel certain? But tomorrow is never certain. Not at 20, not at 50, not at 100. Life isn't lived after every problem disappears. It's lived in the middle of them. I finally asked about the paper bag. Instead of answering, he scattered seeds beneath a maple tree, and birds appeared from everywhere. "Every morning," he said, watching them, "because they expect breakfast. I don't know if they know I'm coming, but I like believing that if I don't show up, something small in the world will be missing." He wasn't feeding birds because he had nothing else to do. He was reminding himself his life still mattered. Then one December morning, Walter didn't knock. I walked to his house. His daughter answered, eyes red. He passed away peacefully last night. She handed me his little paper bag. Inside was only birdseed, nothing else. I finally understood the lesson he'd taught me. He didn't wake each morning expecting life to make him happy. He woke because someone, or something, needed him. Even if it was only a hungry bird. The next morning, I took that bag outside myself. Not because I thought it would change my life, but because I wanted a reason to open my front door. Some mornings I fed birds. Other mornings I picked flowers for a neighbor or baked bread for a widow. These little acts didn't change the world. They changed me. I stopped waking up wondering how much time I had left and started asking, who can I make smile today? That question quietly replaced fear with purpose. The first lesson gave me a reason to rise each morning. The second lesson was harder because it came from my youngest son, Daniel. As a boy, Daniel had the gentlest heart, sharing his lunch, nursing injured birds, once secretly leaving one of his own Christmas presents for a family who couldn't afford gifts. I thought, I've raised a good man. And I had. But life tests the kindest people hardest. Daniel married young and started a small construction business with dreams bigger than his savings. For a while it went well. Then a contract fell through, equipment broke down, and within 2 years everything crumbled. His marriage, his business, his finances. The first time he asked for help, I didn't hesitate. A few $100s for rent, then his truck, then groceries, then another emergency. I told myself, he's just trying to get back on his feet. But months turned into years, and every time life knocked him down, I rushed to pick him back up. After Harold died, there was comfort in being needed. But slowly, Daniel stopped asking if I could help. He began assuming I would. One rainy afternoon, he sat at my kitchen table, staring into his coffee. "Mama, I'm behind again. I just need a little help." Those words had become too familiar. I looked around my kitchen, 40 years of savings grown much smaller, not from living extravagantly, but from years spent rescuing someone who didn't yet believe he could rescue himself. For the first time, I didn't reach for my checkbook. Instead, I asked, "Daniel, when was the last time you believed you could solve one of your own problems?" "I've spent so many years trying to protect you that I'm afraid I've convinced you that you can't stand without me." "So you're saying no?" My heart broke hearing it, but I held his hand. "I'm saying I love you too much to keep doing something that isn't helping either of us. I'll help you make a plan. I'll sit beside you while you call the bank. But I can't keep solving problems only you can overcome." He stood and walked out without another word. I sat alone and cried, not because I thought I'd made the wrong choice, but because doing the right thing sometimes hurts more than doing the easy thing. Months passed. Daniel stopped calling. He missed Thanksgiving, then Christmas. More than once, I nearly picked up the phone to say, "Come over, I'll fix everything." But I knew I couldn't. I was postponing the lesson life was trying to teach him. Then one spring afternoon, an old pickup pulled into my driveway. Daniel stepped out looking lighter, not because life had become easy, but because responsibility had replaced hopelessness. He handed me an envelope with $500 inside. "The first payment," he said. "You don't owe me anything. I owe you something far more valuable than money. You believed I could stand, even when I didn't. I was wrong to be angry. The day you stopped rescuing me was the day I finally started rescuing myself." We sat together on Harold's old porch swing as the evening sun stretched across the yard. Walter had taught me that purpose gives us a reason to rise each morning. Daniel taught me that love sometimes means stepping back instead of stepping in. You can carry someone's burden so long that they forget they're strong enough to lift it themselves. Real love doesn't make people smaller. It helps them become stronger. But there was still one final lesson, the simplest of all. It began with an old notebook I almost threw away. Not long after Daniel and I began rebuilding our relationship, I was cleaning out an old cedar chest and found a notebook covered in faded blue cloth, filled with my own handwriting from decades earlier. One entry, from our 10th anniversary, made me laugh through tears. Harold had come home covered in grease, carrying wildflowers he'd picked on the roadside, saying they reminded him of me because they kept blooming wherever they were planted. Then I found a page with no special occasion at the top. It simply said, "Today nothing extraordinary happened. The coffee tasted good. The garden needed watering. Harold told another terrible joke. The sunset lasted longer than usual. It was a beautiful day." I sat quietly for a long time. How had I forgotten those moments? Not the weddings or birthdays, but the ordinary days that never seemed important until they were gone. The happiest years of my life weren't built from extraordinary events, but from thousands of ordinary moments I'd almost overlooked. That evening, I bought a new notebook and began writing 3 things I was grateful for each night. Nothing dramatic, just, "Walter made me laugh today," or The birds came early this morning. Soon it became the last thing I did every evening. Gratitude isn't pretending life is perfect. It's refusing to let hardship become the only story you remember. Over the years, one notebook became 5, then 10, filling an entire shelf. Years later, my oldest granddaughter visited, overwhelmed by a stressful job and a struggling marriage. She noticed the notebooks. "Grandma, what's in all of those?" "My memories, the small ones, because those are the moments life quietly steals first." That evening, I gave her a blank notebook. "Every night, write down 3 things worth remembering. They don't have to be important. They only have to be true." Months later, she called. "I had a terrible day, but before bed I opened the notebook, and I realized even on my worst day, someone still hugged me, someone still made me laugh, and the sunset was still beautiful. I'd have forgotten all 3 if I hadn't written them down." "That's exactly why we do it," I told her. Now, when people ask how I've lived to 101, I never tell them I found the secret to living forever. No one has. Life is a gift, not a guarantee. But I can tell you what these 3 lessons gave me. The first gave me a reason to wake up each morning, purpose. The second gave me peace, by teaching me that loving people doesn't always mean carrying every burden for them. And the third taught me to notice the ordinary blessings that quietly become the most extraordinary memories. I don't remember every birthday or every Christmas, but I remember how people made me feel. Kindness, forgiveness, laughter echoing through a small kitchen, Harold reaching for my hand while we watched the sunset without saying a word. Those moments became the real measure of my life. Not my age, not the number of years, but the love inside them. If you've stayed with me until this moment, thank you. It means more than you know. And now I'd like to leave you with one simple question. If tonight were the beginning of your own notebook, what are 3 things from today you never want to forget? Write them down, not because life is perfect, but because it's passing more quickly than any of us realize. One day, you'll open those pages and discover that a meaningful life isn't built from a handful of extraordinary days. It's built from ordinary days, lived with purpose, shared with love, and remembered with gratitude. If this story touched your heart, I'd be honored if you subscribed and joined our community. We share stories that remind us to love ourselves first, cherish the people we love, and find wisdom in the moments we often overlook. Until next time, take care of your heart, take care of the people you love, and don't wait for life to become perfect before deciding it's already worth living.